Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss how to provide a care to an unconscious patient while we are starting an emergency. So whenever we receive a patient who is unconscious in our emergency, we first of all look for the ATLS approach, that is Advanced Trauma Life Support approach. While moving through this approach, we have to do a primary survey, we have to do a secondary survey, then at the end we have to undergo a definitive treatment. So whenever we move through primary survey, we have to follow A, B, C, D, E. That is A for airway maintenance, B for breathing, C for circulation, and so on. So whenever we start with airway maintenance, what we have to look in our patient, we have to look in our patient either he is conscious or unconscious. If he is unconscious, then regardless of the cause, we have to maintain the airway. How we are going to maintain the airway? We have different methods by which we can maintain his or her airway. So if we see that there is a falling back of the tongue of the patient, we will move on towards oropharyngeal airway. We will use oropharyngeal airway in order to prevent the fall back of the tongue. Or if there is any kind of like material present in the oral cavity, like there is a kind of blood, there is a kind of mucus, there is a kind of dirt, we have to remove it via suction in order to clear our airway. So if we see our patient with Glasgow Coma scale of less than 8, we will have to follow another approach of airway maintenance, which is endotracheal intubation or tracheostomy. If we have a patient who is unconscious for more than 5 days, then we will not follow oropharyngeal airway, then we will move on towards endotracheal intubation or tracheostomy. So now we have just maintained the airway. What we will do further? We know that our patient is unconscious. He cannot eat by himself. He cannot urinate by himself. He cannot do any kind of hygienic measures by himself. So we have to do one thing. We have to maintain the caloric requirement of the patient via nasogastric intubation. We have to maintain his skin hygiene via changing his position on the bed, as if he lies on the bed for more than 2 hours or more than a day, there will be kind of bed sores. So we have to prevent those bed sores. In order to prevent those bed sores, we just turn out the patient from side to side after a few hours. Now moving on towards its oral hygiene, his oral hygiene. In order to maintain his oral hygiene, we have to wash his mouth regularly after 2 hours, after 3 hours, or 2 to 3 times a day. In order to maintain oral cavity hygiene, we can use mouthwash as well. We have another problem that there will be bowel, there will be urine. So how can we deal with bowel and urinary conditions? We will put a urinary catheter, that is Foley catheter, in order to provide a way for urine to evacuate it from the body, or for bowel we do bowel evacuation for this. Now, when we have maintained the airway of our unconscious patient, we have to look for the reason why our patient is unconscious. In order to look for why our patient is unconscious, we have to look for any kind of hematoma which will be present in the skull, So in order to evaluate our patient, as he is having any hematoma, what we have to do? So before moving towards hematoma, we first have to know what are the types of hematoma in the skull. We have two types of hematoma in the skull, that is extradural hematoma and subdural hematoma. As the name indicates, extradural means outside the dura mater of the skull, and subdural hematoma means that it is within the dura mater, that it is below the dura mater, within the dura mater or arachnoid matter. So when we proceed towards extradural hematoma, what is this extradural? So we are proceeding towards extradural hematoma. What is extradural space? Extradural space is basically a potential space which is present between the dura mater and the skull. So when there is accumulation of the blood within the space between dura mater and the skull, it will refer to as extradural hemorrhage or extradural hematoma. And why this extradural hemorrhage takes place? It is basically due to the linear squamous temporal bone fracture of the skull. What happens when there is extradural hematoma? There is a main artery which is passing through this area, which is middle meningeal artery. Whenever there is rupture, when there is fracture of the linear squamous bone here in the extradural space outside the dura mater, what happens? This middle meningeal artery got damaged, got ruptured. When this got ruptured, it will result in the formation of hematoma or accumulation of the blood. What happens to the patient when there is hematoma formation or the blood accumulation? What happens? There is a minor loss of consciousness. minor loss of consciousness, and after that minor loss of consciousness the patient will regain his consciousness. This period of losing a consciousness then regaining consciousness after a few minutes or few time of losing consciousness, this is known as lucid interval, and it is the main diagnostic point for extradural hematoma. After this rapid drowsiness, the patient may lose consciousness again, and if this condition remains untreated, the patient will lead on towards death. What will a doctor sees in the patient? When he is observing his vitals, when he is observing his pulse, he will look out a decrease in the pulse rate, that is bradycardia. And when he is moving on towards checking of the reflexes of a patient, he will observe that the pupil on the both sides are fixed, dilated, and non-reactive to light. If the clot lies in the motor area, then what does happens? Then there will be a contralateral hemiparesis. Hemiparesis means weakness of that limb. What are the investigations we perform in order to locate our hematoma? In order to confirm our diagnosis, we will just move on towards CT scan, which is the main investigation of choice in this case. On CT scan, what will we have? There is a clot which appears bright, biconvex, and has well-defined borders. This is extradural hematoma with its sign and symptoms and investigation. Now moving on towards management. In management, whenever we are having a patient with unconsciousness or in a surgery department, we have to follow the ATLS approach. By maintaining its airway, breathing, or circulation, we will move further on towards the definitive treatment. According to this condition, the definitive treatment we have here is open craniotomy for clot evacuation. And if there is clot evacuation, then patient will be stable after this open craniotomy. Now, what are the indications for this open craniotomy? We perform open craniotomy in selected cases of asymptomatic clot that are less than 1 centimeter in maximum dimension. Here is a point to remember that we do not give mannitol in case of extradural hematoma, because mannitol will be used in order to reduce the intracranial pressure, as in case of hematoma intracranial pressure already is reduced, so we do not use mannitol here. Now, moving on towards the subdural hematoma. What is basically subdural hematoma? It is the collection of the blood between the dura mater and arachnoid matter of the brain. It is a correctable supratentorial mass lesion, which is mostly considered in comatose patient. Whenever we look towards the subdural hematoma, it is more common in elderly patient because there is aging process in the elderly people. When there is an aging process, there is naturally cerebral atrophy bridging cortical veins, and these cortical veins are more prone to laceration from shear injury or to apparently spontaneous rupture. When we consider elderly patient, we have a chance of subdural hematoma because there is cerebral atrophy leading to cortical vein more prone to lacerations. Other than elderly, we have another reason behind subdural hematoma, which is trauma. When there is trauma to a patient or a severe injury to the head, to the skull, we will have a subdural hematoma other than elderly. But we have a case that the severity of injury via subdural hematoma in advancing age becomes less. What we have seen that in case of elderly, there is naturally cerebral atrophy, so the chances of trauma being a cause to subdural hematoma is less in elderly people. The symptoms when we receive a patient with subdural hematoma, what the patient tells us, that he has altered consciousness. He sometimes waken, sometimes drowsiness. There may be headache. These are the two major symptoms, like headache and altered consciousness, which are leading our diagnosis towards a subdural hematoma. There may be vomiting, there may be weakness of the limbs, there may be confusion, there may be speech disturbance, there may be sears, vertigo, and visual disturbance also. What we see in the patient, we confirm that his altered consciousness is correct, that depression of consciousness is there, papillary edema is there, pupillary inequality is there. When we look to check for the cranial nerves, we know that this injury is happening in the anterior cranial fossa and middle cranial fossa. So we are going to check the cranial nerves. When we check the cranial nerves, we come to know that the facial nerve is not working properly, that the facial nerve features are weakening. So there is facial weakness or motor asymmetry. There may be memory loss, there may be aphasia. Classification of subdural hematoma. Subdural hematoma is divided into three bases: on the period of presentation, on the period of passage of trauma. So when we discuss the classification, there may be three classes: acute subdural hematoma, subdural hematoma, subacute subdural hematoma, chronic subdural hematoma. Acute means that the patient is presenting within the 3 days of trauma. Subacute means that the 3 days period has crossed and the patient present us to within 4 to 20 days. And now referring to the chronic, patient present after 20 days. This is in MCQ2 and university question also. So we have classified the subdural hematoma on three classes, that is acute, subacute and chronic. Now moving on towards the investigation, what we do first in order to diagnose the subdural hematoma, we will do CT scan plain or MRI, which are the main diagnostic techniques for this hematoma to get determined. So what we look on the CT scan, two investigation, that is CT scan or MRI. What we look in the CT scan, we have a bright or mixed density crescent shaped area which have distinct borders and which is not crossing the midline because of the presence of foci cerebri. Acute hematoma is bright white on CT scan. After 3 days it fades to iodine, and with the passage of time it will match the density of the brain. It will become dark. On the basis of CT scan, we also classify our hematoma as acute, subacute or chronic. Now moving on towards the treatment, its treatment is also the same like that of extradural hematoma. We will do open craniotomy after following the guidelines of ATLS. For evacuation of the clot is indicated for any acute subdural hematoma which is more than 1 centimeter in thickness or smaller hematomas that are asymptomatic. What will we do in the post-op care after surgery of the cerebral trauma? We just do not discharge our patient after surgery. We have to admit him in the ward for further evaluation. The purpose of admitting a patient in a ward is to evaluate, is to further monitor his condition. Either it worsens or it will move towards the recovery phase. So when we look towards the recovery phase of the patient, we have to maintain his ventilation. In order to maintain the ventilation, we have to set the partial pressure of carbon dioxide between 30 to 33.75 millimeter of mercury. We have to monitor his hemodynamic status. We have to make our patient hemodynamically stable. When we are going to maintain our patient hemodynamically stable, we have to maintain some central lines, we have to maintain some arterial lines, we have to put on urinary catheter in order to measure the urinary output for hemodynamic balance. We have to raise the head of the patient around about 30 degree in order to reduce the edema formation, that is a post-op complication. And as we have done out the surgery, so we have to give our patient analgesics and sedation in order to move our patient more quickly towards recovery phase. We have to monitor the cerebral perfusion pressure, which we have to hold above 70 millimeter of mercury. We have to monitor the intracranial pressure, which is very important in this case, which we have to hold below 25 millimeter of mercury. We have to monitor the temperature of the patient because it is also a complication, post-op complication. Our patient may got any kind of infection, so we have to measure the temperature, and we have to repeat the CT scan if we want to discharge our patient. We have to repeat CT scan in order to look for the condition. Either the condition is getting worse, either the condition is getting cured. We have to follow all these protocols to look for the treatment, to look for the betterment of our patient. So here we have done with extradural hematoma and subdural hematoma. If you have liked my video, then please do subscribe to my channel.